Good morning and welcome to the Saturday, January 17th, 2015 TV Toastmasters meeting. We have a great meeting in store today for you. Those of you in our studio here, as well as for those of you who are looking in from home. We have 3 speakers. We have an evaluation portion of our meeting where we will hear feedback on what we do well and what things we might want to consider improving. At this point, I have the pleasure of introducing our Toastmaster for today's meeting. She is also our Vice President of Membership for this Toastmaster year. She will be running our Toastmasters meeting this morning. Help me welcome Michelle Lewis, competent communicator, competent leader, to serve as our Toastmaster. Michelle.
Thank you, Steve, Mr. President. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for looking in today. We hope you enjoy our meeting. We are going to stray a little bit from our normal format today. We typically include an impromptu speaking session or section of our meeting. However, because we had a new member induction this morning in the essence of time, we are going to eliminate that. So you'll have to watch again if you really want to see what the impromptu section is about. We have as Steve mentioned, we have a great meeting in store. And first I'm going to ask our Patty Raggets to come up, who is our grammarian and word of the day, to come up and introduce a word that we're going to encourage our members to use during today's speaking portion. Patty?
The word of the day is love. It's an intense feeling of deep affection.
And I love that word. Perfect timing. Valentine's Day is next month. We were noticing this morning at Kroger, what is it, a month out? And they have the balloons, the flowers. So it's a little odd if somebody would shop this early, but I guess they're trying to get everybody in the spirit of love.
Flowers wouldn't be too good by a month from now.
Yes. So we're now going to transition into our presentations, our speaking portions of today. And I'm very excited about our first speaker. Our first speaker has been a member for a few months, but was unable to participate quite often because he was studying for a big test. But we'd like to congratulate Richard Gant for passing his General Security Supervisor examination. So round of applause. Rich is now allowed to supervise the investment of companies' activities, so I'm sure he'll speak about that at some point during the course of his next 10 speeches to achieve his CC. But today, he's starting off with number 1. He's giving us his icebreaker out of the Competent Communicator Manual. It's a 4 to 6 minute speech, and I'm going to ask Richard to come up. Here I am, Richard Gant. Here I am.
So, 8 months ago, my wife comes to me and says, I really feel like my public speaking skills have degraded a little bit, and I want to get better because I'm looking at moving up in my career. Wanting to be a supportive, loving husband. I said, sure, have a great time. Then, 7.5 months ago, she comes to me and says, well, I found this great-looking club. It's called TV Toastmasters, and they record you so you can watch your speeches and get better. And since I want to do, video conferencing and video training, that seems like a great fit for me. Wanting to be a supportive husband, I said, sure, have a great time. 7 months and a week ago, she comes to me and says, hey, you know how you're trying to get promoted at work? Well, if you're going to be in management, you're going to have to get up and speak about things and do presentations and talk to people. And it's been a long time since you've done any public speaking. Maybe you should come with me. And wanting to be a supportive husband, I said, sure, we'll have a great time. 7 months ago, when she got me up for the meeting, I realized, oh my God, I'm going to have to get up before 8 on a Saturday. I'm going to have to leave the house and see the sun before 9. What have I gotten myself into? But, at that point, guys, married guys, back me up on this. It's too late to back out at that point. Not if you want to be a happy, loving, supportive husband. So, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, here I am. Or more correctly, here I was for a month. Because I came here in June 1st, and then July I was officially a member, and I was excited about getting into that manual and actually reading it and deciding what sort of speeches I was going to give, and I was looking forward to all this. And then in August, we got an opportunity for a promotion. And I was like, yes! Excellent! All my hard work's paying off! That promotion was contingent on a few things. One of the things it was contingent on was passing the Series 9 and Series 10 examinations, collectively known as the General Securities Supervisor Examination, or by people who've been through it, and bear in mind, these are people who are trying to talk me up and support me and encourage me as I pass this test, known as that test. Or, oh, thank God, I never have to do that again in my life. These were the people who were being supportive, telling me this. If you've never bothered to look it up, and I can't imagine why you would have unless you're in the business, because it is not fun, and it's not interesting, and it's not, well, it's interesting, but it's not the sort of thing that you go, I'm bored. I wonder what securities people do if they want to supervise other securities people. So it's 200 multiple choice questions. You have 5.5 hours to pass it. It's normally taken in two pieces, 145 questions, 155 questions. You don't have to take it the same day. I know one person who took both tests the same day. He hides under his desk when you bring this up. He passed, but he was shell-shocked for a week afterwards. So, the wonderful thing is, of course, I passed. It was a great feeling, because it's amazing. I don't know if you've ever taken a standardized regulatory test of some sort, but you go to this Prometrics testing center, and you sit down, and you're going through all these questions, and you're answering, you're checking off your answers, and you're going back and second-guessing yourself, and you're going back and third-guessing yourself. But finally you get to a point where it says, are you done? And you click yes. And then it says, are you really done? Yes! Would you like your score? Yes! Are you sure you want your score? Yes! Give it to me! Well, it's going to be a couple minutes while we calculate your score. You hyperventilate. It doesn't matter how calm you think you are. You will hyperventilate. And finally it comes back, and I passed with flying colors. I had a margin of success that I'm glad that I had because I thought I'd failed. Everybody thinks they failed. So here I am. Now, don't fully have the promotion yet. It's sort of a transitional stage while they make sure I'm going to do a good job as a entry-level manager. But I'm supporting a team. I'm providing technical coaching and feedback to the representatives. I'm reviewing their interactions with our clients and making sure, from a compliance perspective, they're doing what the industry expects them to do so that we don't get fined and they don't go to jail. And I'm getting up in front of 7 or 8 people every week and giving a presentation anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. In other words, I'm public speaking again. So, if my wife hadn't come to me 8 months ago and said, I want to go back to Toastmasters, you want to go with me? I'd be sitting around right now going, I'm terrible at this. What do I need to do to get better? So, I love the fact that she brought me here. I love being here, and I'm looking forward to improving my skills. Madam Toastmaster?
Thanks, Richard. I love that speech. You obviously demonstrate love for your wife, as she also demonstrates love for you by dragging you out of bed on Saturday morning. We are now going to hear from Richard's wife, Melanie, who will be giving her speech, number 3, get to the point out of the Competent Communicator Manual. It's a 5 to 7 minute speech, and the title is Accentuate the Positive. Melanie Jones-Gant, Accentuate the Positive.
I am not a positive person. Matter of fact, most of the time, I'm downright negative. Well, sort of. Kind of, maybe, sort of. Maybe. Yeah, that was on purpose for the grammarian. I've had to learn the hard way about how to present yourself in a positive light to people because I wasn't trained that way as a kid. I had to learn what it takes to appear positive to an audience, and I had to learn what it appears positive to even have a positive attitude in general conversation. Things like body language, eye contact, word choice, and phrases, which make the difference between delivering bad news, horrible, or delivering bad news and make it sympathetic to the person you're delivering it to. Also, how to take good news and make it sound like someone has died, which I actually accidentally did one time. So the point of accentuating the positive is learning the small key things you can do to help you be more positive, or accentuate the positive, as the old song goes. You know, you want to downplay the negative and uplift the people around you. The first is, what do you physically do to look positive? Well, what do you physically do to look negative? Well, first thing is you look down. People who are positive tend to look each other in the eye. Not aggressively, but just glancing at even the forehead can present a more positive attitude. Having hand gestures that are open and welcoming versus defensive. Even sticking your hands in your pocket can be seen as uptight. So you want to have your hands out and open, or even at your side, so it doesn't seem like you're in a defensive mode. My favorite is the use of phrases. The use of phrases for positive. Negative, disgusting. Positive, surprised. Negative, exhausted and tired. Positive, recharging. Negative, failure. Positive, learning. Negative, afraid. Positive, curious. Negative, I hate, to I prefer. My favorite one is weird versus unique. The choices we use in words make a difference on how we appear to people. Me saying, I hate the fact that you're weird, I prefer that you're a unique individual, makes a totally different presentation for the individual in front of you. The third part is, how do you use your voice and inflection to be positive? When you reduce the tone in your voice versus raising it up, or having more energy in it, you appear to the person that you're talking to be enthusiastic. I'm not saying, go up here so you sound like a football coach. What I'm saying is doing things like, you know, I'm really excited that you're here today. Welcome to Toastmasters is a lot more positive than, hi, welcome to Toastmasters. It sounds a lot more positive and welcoming, if nothing else. When you go from the negative to the positive in everyday speech, you can present the club, yourself, or the situation in a way that's much more welcoming, encouraging, and loving. Because we're all here at Toastmasters to learn how to be better at what we do. And one of the things that I've had to learn, and obviously, is how to look up at people, how to smile with both my eyes and my mouth, how to use phrases not like I hate versus I prefer, and how to use gestures to make people feel welcoming so that they hang around so we can grow a club or grow ourselves. And just want to be around each other. Because the thing is about accentuating the positive in ourselves is that we're a much more pleasant person to be around, and it's easier for us to actually want It's easier for us to actually want to be around those people. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Melanie. Love the topic. I think it's something that we can all relate to, and great advice for most of us. Being positive is something we don't realize is it's a learned skill, and it's something that we should focus on. So thank you very much for the speech. We are now going to move on to one of our most experienced Toastmasters in the club. Rick Barron he's an advanced communicator bronze and an advanced leader silver, and he's preparing pardon my grammatical errors. Sorry, today it's a little bit out of it. So today he's going to be doing a speech from the Better Speaking series, the Educational Better Speaker series, concluding your speech. It's a 10 to 15 minute speech. He will share a tip with us to make you and the most memorable person others encounter. Rick will be sharing techniques from the Toastmasters Better Speaker series on concluding a speech, presentation, or conversation to help you avoid FSS. Avoiding FSS. Rick Barron.
Thank you, Michelle. I know that the Toastmasters in this room have experienced it. And I'm sure many sitting here have even inflicted it upon others. The condition that I'm speaking of is called FSS, Fading Speech Syndrome. And this curable condition can be relieved by using a powerful closing to end your speech. My objective today is to share with you 6 techniques that you can use in your next speaking opportunity, and if you're watching from home, in any conversation, to make what you say more memorable to the audience that you are speaking to. Before we get started on the 6 techniques, there are 3 criteria that a successful closing must have. The first is it must achieve a sense of closure. In a conversation, in a speech, in a discussion, people want closure. They want to know when the topic is over. And a powerful closing allows you to do that. It signals the end of your speech. So if somebody was daydreaming or not paying attention, a simple phrase like, "in summary," wakes them up and says, "Oh my gosh, I should pay attention now because the speech is coming to an end, and maybe there's something I may have missed." The second thing is the closing helps make an impact. Think about and reflect on your own experience. You get a phone call from your spouse asking to pick up 5 things at the grocery store. You turn on the radio, you make a phone call, you walk into Kroger and go, "I remember the last thing, but what were the other things that were on the list?" Our brains are wired to remember the last thing that was said. That's just how it works. So by using a powerful closing, you have an opportunity to imprint that on your on your audience. The last thing, you want to make sure that your closing uses a limited amount of time. The suggestion is 5 to 10% of the total amount of time should be used for a closing. So if you're giving a 10-minute speech, maybe 30 to 60 seconds would be wise for the closing. Otherwise, it becomes too much a part of the speech, and people have a hard time differentiating the closing from the body. Let's get into the 6 techniques. The first is a quotation. Many good speeches end with a quotation. The quotation gives you a sense of authority. It allows you to reference some other kind of material to help make your point. You want to make sure that it dramatizes the points that you're making, that it's short and relates specifically to the topic. For example, great is the art of beginnings, but greater is the art of ending. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Second technique, tell a short story or anecdote. Make sure that this story develops quickly. You don't want it going on and on and on. It can be inspirational or funny. It really doesn't matter. But it has to be something that relates to your message. Wind the clock back 30-some years. I'm a sophomore in college learning how to skydive. The instructor looks at me and he says, 30, 40, 50 years from now, you will remember what I'm about to teach you, and that is how to deploy your reserve parachute. Look, grab, protect, pull, punch. That's how you get the parachute off your chest and into the air to save your life. If you want to make sure that your audience remembers your point, tell them something that is meaningful to them. Saving my life was very meaningful, and 33 years later, I still remember how to deploy that reserve chute. Issue a call to action. In many cases, we give speeches or presentations that try to persuade or influence others, yet we never ask them to do anything at the end, so that great speech is lost because we didn't issue a call to action. We must explain what we want them to take, the action that we want them to do. For instance, for the Toastmasters in the room, I challenge you to select one of these 6 topics, 6 methods of closing your speech, and using it in your next speech or presentation. The fourth way is to ask a rhetorical question. What this does is it gets people thinking about your topic in a way that may have supported the information that you provided. For those of you sitting in the audience, the time that you invest in preparing your icebreaker or other presentation, enhance the value by selecting one of these closing techniques to make sure that people understand that topic. The fifth method is to reference what you stated at the beginning of your speech, tying the beginning and the end together, helping your audience wrap their minds around the entire content. Let's all commit to minimizing FSS, fading speech syndrome, by selecting an appropriate closing technique for our next speech or presentation. The sixth item is to summarize your main point. This is one that's used commonly by speakers that have a lot of items that they are presenting in their speech or presentation. It gives us an opportunity to walk away with those golden nuggets one more time shared with us. You can use a quotation, a story, a call to action, a rhetorical question. You can tie the beginning and the end together, or you can summarize your main points. There are 3 tips for success that I will share with you today in terms of closing your speech. The first is to memorize your conclusion. It brings a sense of confidence, and it ends your speech with impact, as opposed to doing the, let me see here, I'm trying to, I see that I'm out of time, sorry, thank you. No, that's not how you want to close your speech. Memorize the closing so that you can deliver the closing with confidence and assurance, and the audience gets a feeling of, wow, that was powerful. The second suggestion for success is to end on time. How many times do speakers go over? And you see the people in the audience checking their watch, looking at their cell phones, surfing the internet, and by the time the speaker finally leaves, all the audience remembers is, thank goodness, he's finally gone. Didn't he know we had to have lunch 10 minutes ago? That's not really how you want your speech to be remembered. The guy who kept everybody from making it to lunch on time. No. The third suggestion for success is to refrain from adding new points in the closing. A lot of speakers will forget something during their main presentation, and as they're wrapping up, those two brain cells will connect and they'll go, oh my goodness, I forgot to tell them about this. And they will sidetrack the entire presentation by mixing it up in the closing. It's like, what is he trying to do? Is he adding more stuff? Is he finishing up? They leave their audience with a sense of confusion rather than confidence and assurance. If you forgot something, leave it in the notes. You can send the notes out afterwards and people can read it rather than hear you say it. I do have a couple of bonus suggestions for success. The first one is to vary the technique that you use. Don't always use the same technique in closing your speeches. Once we get a chance to hear you and you use the same technique over and over and over, maybe we'll pull this speech out and hold it back up for you and say, there were 5 others that you could choose from. Maybe you'd want to choose one of those. The second bonus item I'd like to share with you is to pause before your conclusion. So many speakers just want to race through it and get through it that they don't take time to pause, let the content sink in, and then deliver their closing statement, as I'm preparing to do right now. Fading speech syndrome is a curable condition that the Toastmasters and our audience don't have to experience by using one of the 6 powerful closing techniques that I've shared with you here. A quotation, a story or anecdote, a call to action, a rhetorical question, summarizing your point, or linking it back to the beginning. Next time you speak, I look forward to hearing one of your 6 techniques for closing your speech, because I too love Toastmasters.
Thank you, Rick. Always love Rick's passion. We're now going to take a minute to allow our evaluator to prepare for her evaluation.
What future do you envision for yourself? What dreams do you have? If you want your dreams to come true, you must have confidence in yourself and your abilities. A Toastmasters Club can help you build that confidence. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters shows you how to express yourself clearly and effectively. Make your dreams a reality. Join.
Welcome back. We will now transition into our feedback portion of today's meeting. This is a time that allows our members and our speakers to get feedback on their presentations for areas of improvement and areas that they've done well. I'm now going to introduce our general evaluator for today's meeting, Ms. Carol Cormelink.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our most welcome guests. This is the fun part of the meeting where you get immediate feedback, and I have a team. I have an evaluator for each of the speakers, a grammarian to give us a grammarian report, and our timers report. And I'm glad to say we have pressed a new member into service as our timer, and we are very well organized here. I would like to start out with our first evaluator today for Richard, who is Steve Aaronholtz, Distinguished Toastmaster Steve Aaronholtz.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, our guests looking in from home. And Richard, congratulations on completing your icebreaker speech. Somehow I thought, when I saw you were going to do an icebreaker speech today, that hasn't he done one already? And when you gave us your speech, that's when I realized, okay, yes, he's been here, but then he hasn't been here. So it made more sense to me. The icebreaker speech purpose is to allow the speaker to introduce themselves to the club. We learned something about you. We learned something about you today, which I thought was very well done. It's to start getting you accustomed to speaking in front of a group of people, and it gives us an opportunity to see what things you already do well. One of the things I'm asked is to evaluate strong points that you already have. You had good volume. That's one of the things that I always appreciate, because you never quite know what a room's going to be like as far as its acoustics go. And I think it's better to be a little on the too loud side rather than be up here kind of talking under your breath or something and people can't hear, especially when you have ventilation noises, which some rooms will have. You also had some vocal variety and minimal use of notes. I thought it was really nice how you told us a story. Your use of humor I enjoyed as well. We learned about how you came to be in TV Toastmasters and how it's actually turning out to be a really good move, even though that's not why you got here in the first place. Did the speech reflect adequate preparation? I think so, because it flowed very well. One of the things that we learn in Toastmasters is if you want to make a point, you tell a story. And you did that. The other thing I liked was that you tied your speech title back into your speech as you went along. You said, "Here I am." That's how you got here, even though it meant getting up and seeing the sun before 9 o'clock on a Saturday. Speech did have an opening, body, and conclusion. It flowed really well. I really liked that. Minimal use of notes. What could the speaker have done differently that would have improved the speech? One of the things that I wanted to comment on, you had good volume, your speech flowed well. The one thing I kind of noticed was that you seemed a little stiff up here. You had a bracing posture at one point on the lectern. So I thought maybe a little more body language. You did use some, because you used your hands a couple of times, but it seemed like you were pretty intent on getting your speech out to us, so you were a little bit rigid as far as body language goes up here. The other thing that I tried to pay attention to was whether you engaged the audience, and you were kind of looking out here. I couldn't tell from where I was sitting whether you were kind of looking around and engaging different people. What did I like about the presentation? I liked your humor, your story development, and the flow. You shared your perspectives with us on the speech subject, and you tied it all together at the end with "Here I am," which is what Rick talked about it. I look forward to hearing your next speech, and congratulations on completing your icebreaker. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Steve, for that very thorough evaluation. Our next evaluator for Melanie will be Michelle Lewis, which she had to do double duty while she was waiting to be Toastmaster, had to concentrate on Melanie. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Melanie, fantastic speech. I just realized today that I've evaluated you on 1, 2, and 3. But I also looked back and saw that the areas of improvement that I suggested, which were maybe captivating opening and then also the use of pauses, you are now incorporating. So just after 2 speeches, you've mastered the areas that I suggested previously. So accentuate the positive. Today, your objectives were to select a speech topic and determine its general and specific purpose, organize the speech in a manner that best achieve those, and ensure the beginning, body, and conclusion reinforce the purposes, and project sincerity and conviction, and control any nervousness you may feel, and strive not to use your notes. I absolutely loved the opening. It was pretty humorous, right? Everybody can relate, and they don't tend to realize sometimes your use of words and your body language and your inflection can come across as negative to others. So your general purpose was to inform us, but also to inspire us and to entertain us a little bit. So you did a great job of making that very clear. Your specific purpose was how to accentuate the positive. That was very clear. You added humor, which you did a very good job. And I would have never known from knowing you just the short time you've been in Toastmasters that you needed to learn how to be positive, because you always come across as very positive. So I think it was interesting for us as fellow Toastmasters to learn something new about you. You gave us very specific your looks, your use of eye contact, hand gestures, your use of phrases, great examples. You gave negative and positive, so I really like how you gave us very specific. Your weird versus unique was a very specific example. And your use of inflections as your third point was another great area for us to think about. The only thing that I could think about as far as an area of improvement is when you were talking about your second point, you didn't identify that it was your second point. So for a second, I was thinking, is she still talking about point number one? Because you said point number one, then you went on to your second point, and then you did point number three, but you didn't identify that you were speaking about point number two, unless I missed it. So I apologize if I did. You didn't use your notes very much. I know you had them here, but when you did use them, you were very discreet. So you kind of glanced down. Carol's favorite is look down, but don't put your head down, and you did a very good job of doing that. So fantastic speech. I look forward to your next one.
Thank you, Michelle, for those encouraging words. Our next evaluator for Rick Barron will be Melanie Jones. So that was double duty. Right after her speech, she had to evaluate Rick. Thank you so much, Melanie.
Rick, the point of the presentation was very effective. You had great use of hand gestures. You used humor very well. I don't really have a lot of comments. I'm sorry. I usually am pretty thorough about picking something out, even for advanced Toastmasters. And I felt like I was in a conference and someone was giving a signature presentation to other Toastmasters. The only thing that I think maybe the presentation might have been more effective is maybe some visuals when you said checking your watch, maybe have a watch on, or checking their phones, maybe there. But I don't have a lot of feedback. I really do think that presentation was quality and might be able to be used in a training in general for the club. Because I know for myself, my conclusions tend to be weak. And your speech reminded me that the conclusion is as important as the opening, which a lot of Toastmasters forget. Specifically me. I know my conclusions aren't always the strongest. So, Rick, I loved it. I don't really have a lot of negative feedback. Well, I don't have a lot of critique for you on that. The only second thing that I wrote down was you're always great about vocal variety, but sometimes it seems a little stiff. But I think that's just presentation style, more natural movements. You're obviously very well practiced with your speeches, or giving speeches, I should say. But that's the only feedback I really have for you. So, Madam Toastmaster, I don't...
Thank you. I value integrity. Thank you for that. Our next report is from our grammarian today, from Patty Raggets. If Patty will please come up and tell us how we did with our grammar and our all-counter.
Everybody said good on that because I wasn't counting all that. There were so many love words.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to use that.
Okay, the word of the day was love, an intense feeling of a deep affection. Melanie had 2, Rick Barron had 1, Steve had 1, Carol had 1, Richard had 5, and like always, Michelle outbeats all of us because she's so eloquent. She had 10.
Thank you so much for that word. I love Toastmasters, so I could use love, 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 love. And our last report is from our timer report. And John Meyer, our very newest member, if he would please come up and give us the timing report. Let us welcome John Myers.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. All right, my first official timing report. For our word of the day, which was love, given by Patty Raggets, the guideline says 2 to 3 minutes. It came in at 10 seconds.
See, I'm a time like Michelle.
For our speeches, let's see, the first speech, which was the icebreaker from Richard Gant, Here I Am. The guideline was between 4 to 6 minutes, timed in at 5 minutes, 24 seconds. Second speech, given by Melanie Jones-Gant. The point is, the guideline was between 5 and 7 minutes, timed in at 5 minutes, 9 seconds. For our third speech, Rick Barron gave Your Secret Weapon. The guideline was between 10 and 15 minutes, came in at 12 minutes, 12 seconds. For our evaluators, Steve Aaronholtz evaluated Richard's speech. His evaluation came in at 3 minutes, 53 seconds. The guidelines for the evaluations are between 2 to 3 minutes, but you're the president, so you can do that. Our second evaluator, Michelle Lewis, evaluated Melanie's speech, and hers came in at 2 minutes, 48 seconds. Our third evaluator, Melanie Jones-Gant, evaluated Rick's, and hers came in at 1 minute, 55 seconds. Almost there. For our grammarian, Patty, the guideline is between 2 to 3 minutes for the grammarian. She came in at 35 seconds. And for our general evaluator, Carol, I don't know how to time you, so I gave you an approximate time of 17 seconds. And that is the timing report.
Thank you for being so thorough, John. Love it. Thank you very much. It's now my duty to evaluate the meeting as a whole, and I would like to say this was a very good meeting. We had people fill in at the last minute. We had some technical difficulties. We're running a little behind time, and we're handling it really well. I like the induction ceremony that we did off the camera, that it went really well. I also loved the humor in the speeches. All had intriguing titles, which is one of the first things to learn when you're giving a speech. Make it something that people want to hear before you even get up here, and give the introducer a good introduction for you. And that was done, and I love the way Richard incorporated "Here I am" all throughout his speech. Fantastic, Richard. The one thing I'm also to give ideas to the evaluator that they may have done or that, and I loved with Steve, he commented on Richard's presentation style. He didn't regurgitate the speech. He talked about the style. That's what you're learning, how to get to the point, how to organize your speech. And he commented on those good traits that you already have. And he did give you one suggestion for room for improvement in your next speeches, which is one of the reasons why you get the feedback. Michelle, for Melanie, she again emphasized the speech techniques and she gave room for improvement, and I know she is very conscious of this because she's called me on it when I didn't do it, that she didn't specify point two, point two. And I know that that was an oversight because I know that you do that all the time. That was good that you gave her some room to grow and telling her how much she has grown. You tell people something they could do better, they don't pay attention. So I'm proud of you, Melanie, and I'm so glad that you and Rich have joined our club. I really have learned a lot from you already. And I probably, with our next Melanie for Rick, I liked your honesty that you really didn't see a lot of things that you could comment on. But my confusion, every time Rick gave a point, he would have an ending. Point one, and he'd have an ending. I'm going, oh, did I miss something? And then I get point two, and he'd have an ending. Oh, did I miss something? Where's 3, 4, 5, 6? And he did that after every one. So that was a little confusing for me because I kept thinking, oh, I only got point 3, and he said he was going to give 6 points. So that was a little confusing, but it was fantastic. I've violated all of those. I really enjoyed that. I love your word of the day, love. Love conquers everything. So I thought we had a fantastic time. And John, with your first timing report, you did better than Toastmasters who are seasoned and forget to do a lot of the timing. You were fantastic. And if you liked the meeting, let us give a hand for the great meeting we had. And I'll return control to our president, to our Toastmaster, Michelle Lewis, former president.
Thank you. Fantastic meeting today. I commend all of you for adapting. We had some technical difficulties at first, but we got through that. We also had some folks sit in on the camera, so I wanted to recognize Bev Schneider, Diane Powers, and Randy Rappin and Nikki, as always, for helping us run this meeting. Behind the scenes is very important, and sometimes we forget to tell them we love their energy and their effort. I'm now going to turn it over to our president to conclude this meeting.
Thank you, Michelle. I also was informed that she's up to 12 uses of the word of the day now. Yeah, a little bit of our issue as far as starting our meeting, we had some problems that we had no video. And of course, it's hard to put on a TV Toastmasters program with no video. Two basic things we need is video and audio, and we run into problems with both in the past. But we've gotten it resolved. I hope that everyone enjoyed today's meeting. Our next Saturday meeting will be on February 21st. That will be our club contest. We will have our international speech and evaluation contests. This is in preparation for the District 40 Spring Toastmasters Conference, which will be held April 17th to 19th up in Mason. Our next Thursday meeting for TV Toastmasters will occur on Thursday, February 5th, starting at 6 p.m. So those of you who are looking in, if you'd like to come and check out our meeting, please avail yourself of one of those meeting times. We always meet the first Thursday and third Saturday of each month. We have an exception once in a while, but I won't bother you with those details right now. Again, we had a great meeting today. I thank you all for coming and participating, and our guests looking in from home. I'm Steve Ehrenholz, the president of TV Toastmasters Club 9523, and I adjourn our Saturday, January 17th, 2015 meeting.